Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion are simple: to highlight the incredible nonprofits that make our communities stronger. Each episode is a chance for these organizations to tell their story in their words, sharing not just what they do, but why it matters to the people they serve, to their supporters, and to all of us who believe in the power of community. Through podcasting, we hope to amplify their voices, inspire connection, and give them one more tool to impact the hearts of donors, partners, and neighbors alike. This work is made possible through the generous support of our incredible partners: Cap Trust, offering fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations; Western Health Advantage, a local not-for-profit health plan that believes healthcare is more than coverage. It's about caring. CORE, executive leadership and comprehensive support services. They work in it so you can work on it. And Five Star Bank, a local, trusted advisor to community nonprofits for over 25 years. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of legacy, leadership, and intentional transition, or not. And it's one I've really been looking forward to sharing. My guests are Maggie Bender and Justin Horner from the Capital Region Family Business Center, an organization that exists to support, educate, and connect family-owned businesses across generations. If you've ever been part of a family business or worked closely with one, you know how complex that journey can be. Business decisions don't stay at the office. They follow you to the dinner table, family gatherings, and sometimes across decades. Before we dive in, I want to be fully transparent. We also produce A Seat at the Table, the podcast for the Family Business Center. That relationship matters to disclose. But more importantly, it's given me a front row seat to the kind of thoughtful, honest conversations this organization fosters among families navigating succession, governance, and growth. This episode is particularly special because it marks a leadership transition. Maggie is stepping down after 4 years as president, and Justin is stepping into the role. If you're part of a family business, serve one, or simply want to understand how legacy organizations endure and evolve, this conversation is for you. Maggie Bender, Justin Horner, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm really excited, but in full transparency here, you are a nonprofit. The Capital Region Family Business Center is a nonprofit, and you have a wonderful story to tell. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But I want our listeners to know that we also produce your podcast. You have a podcast called A Seat at the Table, and it is for the Family Business Center. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going. So I needed to share that up front so it doesn't look odd. What is he talking about? He's referring to something we don't know what he's talking about. Right. Let's talk about the organization. Mm-hmm. Maggie, could you give us an overview of what it is the Family Business Center really is and does?
Absolutely. So we exist to support, educate, and connect family businesses across generations. And we have been in existence since 2007. And we have close to 100 members of varying sizes of family businesses, and then the professional services that support them. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of the organization in my mind is to, when you think about owning a business and just being an entrepreneur generally, it's a big lift, right? There's a lot going on inside of a business. You've got all your customers, all your suppliers, all your employees, their families. There's a lot of people that you're trying to bring together to connect to make something happen. And then you layer onto that this time horizon that's theoretically infinite if you're a family business and you want to succeed from generation to generation. And you layer in all the potential family dynamics, the arguments, the disagreements, the misalignment between generations, the different ideas of what the company should become. And there's just a lot of complexity there. And so as an organization, I think our biggest goal is to create a network for people to get together, for family businesses to understand what other companies do, how they've solved complicated problems, and hopefully know those people before their own problems come up so that when they do, they have people to reach out to, a network to rely on, and hopefully a good educational base that can shortcut that problem-solving set.
And as you're listening to this discussion, you may be wondering why there's two people here.
Mhm.
And it's a really unique situation. I think we've only done this once before where there was a transition of people. And Maggie, you are the outgoing president after 4 years
Yes.
for the organization. And Justin, you're the incoming president.
Yeah.
How long have you been with the organization in
Uh,
total?
My family's business, Bender Insurance Solutions, was one of the founding family businesses. And so I've been involved since even before 2007. In fact, I was the first volunteer. So I was doing all the admin with the name tags and
That was grammar
outreach
school?
and invites. No, early 20s, but thank you. Yes. So I've been on the board for 9 years, almost as long as Justin.
And
Yeah.
then you just answered it. So 9 years for you as well, Justin.
Yeah, so I joined about 10 years ago, the beginning of 2016.
Okay.
And I started out on some committees, just volunteering time and trying to help out, and eventually took over the Generations Conference, which I think we'll talk about in a
Yes.
little bit, and then became a board member and then vice president, now president. So,
Well, congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
So what we're going to have is a bit of this transition and release of authority and power
Mhm.
for the group, right? To Justin, which I really appreciate because rarely do you see situations where organizations are intentional about that transition. Somebody usually leaves, and all of a sudden now you're stuck with, what do I do? Who's going to be stepping up into the president role or the CEO role or the executive director, whatever it may be? It's wonderful when you know that it's planned
Mhm.
and it's intentional so that everybody's prepared and there's no surprises.
Mhm.
And with both of you having almost 10 years of tenure on the board, even better.
Yeah.
So congratulations and compliments to you for handling it in such an appropriate way.
We've had a great history of phenomenal presidents that have come before us too, that set this stage for us.
Yeah.
So we're following in amazing footsteps, and so we benefit from a lot of history, which is good.
And I need to address something, Maggie, because it's really neat that it happened this way. The podcast that we produce for the Family Business Center, A Seat at the Table, was born about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. The first episode was your father.
Mm-hmm.
And your father was talking about his transition out of leadership of the family business, the insurance business, and that one of his daughters was going to be moving in. And at the time he's disclosing that in the podcast, it wasn't completely done in the office.
No, I
We're
took over
laughing.
as CEO probably 3-4 months later,
Yeah.
and I thank you for capturing his story because I will always cherish that. It means so much to me.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about that particular podcast is so many families come in and share these stories. They become legacy pieces that patriarch, matriarch, or full family is in. And we've had 3 generations of family in here, talking about, what the situation was back in the day with the youngest going, well, Grandpa, come on. It wasn't like that. And that's just one of the beautiful things of family businesses.
Yeah.
As you look at the organization today, the Family Business Center,
Mhm.
what are some of those issues that come up? What are some of the biggest pressing issues that you hear from the families?
There's a lot. It's complex. I mean, family dynamics is often at the center of it. You're trying to run a business and run your family, and the two are inextricably linked. You're talking about business at dinner, on vacation, and you're talking about family stuff at work. They come together all the time. So naturally, it's just how do you live those two lives, because they're going to be intermingled, and it's got to be a good marriage. Just like hopefully the all the adults in the family business have solid marriages with people they can rely on. The family's got to rely on the business has to rely on the family, and so there's a plethora of dynamics that are involved in that. I think another thing that comes up frequently is that by the time you start hitting kind of late second generation into third generation, the business is very, very different than what it started as. It's a lot easier to manage a smaller startup business as it's going, and maybe it started in good times where the economy was great. Inevitably, by the time you hit end of second gen into third gen, there's been economic cycles. The business has grown a lot. The complexity is a lot different than it used to be. There's more people in decision-making roles that all have to get along. I think managing that can be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out how to do things like even just manage tax consequences of family members when they die. And if there's assets in the business, what are you going to owe? How to manage that? How to prepare for it so that it's not a surprise? Sometimes the numbers can get quite large, and it's intimidating for families when they start staring down the barrel of a 7, 8, 9-figure tax bill, and they've been putting money back into the business their entire lives. They don't have an extra 9-figure check sitting around,
Right.
but they might be required to write one. And so understanding, how to prepare for that, who are the best resources, who's done it before, how do you pay what you owe but not overpay,
Right.
things like that.
And I would imagine not only that situation amongst the family members themselves for collaboration and support and conversation because somebody might have experienced it, but also access to the people who might be able to help the best way
Yeah.
because of the history the organization has in town.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Absolutely.
been around for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah, that could be pretty frightening. And then you realize, oh my gosh, the only way we can do this is sell assets or sell the company.
Right.
Which I'm sure is part of the conversation at points in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a ton of emotion tied up in any of those decisions. One, it's hard to talk about death and the concept of losing a family member, especially somebody that's sort of set up. It was they're the leader of the family, they're the leader
Right.
of the business, and to lose somebody like that's hard to talk about, anyways. And then you bring money into it. A lot of people have difficulty talking about money and talking about where to, how to manage that. It's also not a very exciting topic to talk about for most people. They want to go run their business and do the things that give them energy, and maybe it's working with the employees, maybe it's producing a product, but it's probably not dealing with what are my future tax consequences, right? So it's an easy one to kick down the road because emotionally it's hard to get into, and then it's not very fun, and so it's easy to push off. But it's nice that our organization can be just a little bit of a reminder for people. It's like, hey, it's easier if you get started early, and then it's not going to be, the 6-month rush right at the end when suddenly something's gone wrong.
And that's a unique situation because for an individual who is a family business, let's say it's a second or third generation family business, they're not involved or don't have a peer group to bounce ideas off or concerns and things that are pending or impending.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, you'd be really in a void. You'd have to trust somebody you're paying.
Yeah.
Whereas in this sort of a situation, you have the ability to trust somebody you can trust.
Yes.
Because they've been there, and if they're going to share with you, you've got that implied trust between the organizations. And boy, we've been through that. We remember when Dad passed away, we had that situation. I know exactly what it's like. Here's what we did, or here's who we spoke to. So that is just a huge deal, I can imagine, for many of the members. And for the newest members who are the new family businesses coming up, they have that experience and intellectual equity of the families that have been through it before to bounce ideas off or mentorship or whatever.
Right. Yeah, we have a phenomenal set of technical members. So they're non-family businesses that provide services to families. And they've all been pre-vetted, which is nice. It shortens the process of trying to figure out who might be best to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also some social consequence. If they do a bad job, it's all in this organization and everyone's going to hear about it.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of somebody treating you badly or not taking your problem seriously is relatively low.
Mm-hmm.
And so among the group of technical advisors we have, there's often a few competitors in there, so you have choices, but everyone's going to treat you well. Everyone's been vetted. They'll have their heart in the right place. So it helps that a lot.
I never even thought about the consequence of a poor job.
Yeah.
Because when you have 100+ family businesses, and some, as we'll share in a few minutes, some of these names, we know those names.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want those names talking badly
Yeah.
about whatever it is you do or did.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't be favorable to your business.
Right.
Yeah, that's a little bit of power there.
Yeah.
In the value that vendor brings to the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, very neat. You have an event that comes up every year. It's going to be in first quarter
Mm-hmm.
going forward called Generations.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty intense day for these family businesses. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so Generations is a family business conference where we try to get multiple generations of the same families together all in one room with a full day of phenomenal, well-known keynote speakers, and then a series of breakout sessions where the main group of around 300 attendees can then break off into smaller groups and learn about something specific that they choose. And the purpose of it is to really take a kind of a hard educational approach to a single day and get everyone in the same room, not only networking with each other and getting to know each other, but also having relevant takeaways they can take away immediately and apply to their family business the next day. But also hopefully keep a few things in the back of their head so that the next time something comes up, they remember from generations that, hey, I learned about that 5 years ago. I know who the right people to talk to are.
Yeah, Maggie, having been president for the last 4 years, have there been any generation events that you said, boy, that was something really came out of that as president of the organization that you could leverage forward to say, wow, that was this, or
Absolutely. We identify additional programs that would be appropriate, that would be able to build on or what we learned at Generations. I think the tie and connection back to our organization gets stronger, and we encourage family businesses to bring multiple people from the organization. So you have multiple generations learning together, hearing the same thing, being able to take that back and apply it to their business. And so we've also been very lucky to have many of our keynote speakers join later because they saw all the value in our organization. So I think something that we've learned is Generations used to be a 2-day conference, which was fabulous, but it's a lot of work to run your family business, and so we got the input and we've reformatted it to be a 1-day event and just make it that much more impactful. And that's we've gotten some really great feedback about that.
Yeah, and I like what you said with regard to all the members or as many members of the family as you can get in, because some of the younger ones are now exposed, whereas before it might have just been founder, mother, father, patriarch, matriarch, whatever that was. They go and they bring it back. If they're engaged from the beginning, how much better. And I'm sure you see now, funny it's called Generations, but you see generations of familial involvement in the event where the founders are passed and you have second and third generations now coming in because second came in when founder was there. Now you have third coming in when second is running the organization, which has to be really rewarding and informative too for everybody that participates.
Well, so like Justin said, he was one of the key leaders to make Generations a success. So I'm curious how you would answer that question.
Yeah, I think the stories I've heard where people have taken something away from Generations and applied it immediately is often around governance and the ways to make decisions. Often you can get gridlock with family members and governance, and sometimes you've got outside folks that may have a different view or have a different risk profile than the existing management of the business. I think a lot of families are afraid to kill the golden goose. I think it's the thing that's keeping them alive, and sometimes it feels better to just say like, let's kick a decision out of ways. We don't need to decide right now. We can think about this in the future. But not making a decision is a decision in and of itself.
Yes.
And there's risks associated with not making a decision. And so there's been some better governance ideas that have come out of specific keynotes from Generations that I think have helped a lot of family businesses unlock some of that potential among their board and how to make decisions and then move forward appropriately.
I can only imagine some of the conversations post Generations at that family business, either office or kitchen table.
Yeah.
Whereas, you heard this, what are we going to do about it? Now we have to do something about it. And we know that prolonging it is not a good idea.
Right.
Well, some don't even wait until they get home. They will have the families go out to a nice dinner afterwards and let's debrief on what we learned. Or we've even had families use some of the space in the conference center to bring their family together and have discussions.
That's fantastic.
I love it.
I do too. That's a family business. We don't have to go through a corporate decision. We don't have to take it back and then go through a lot of wading through process.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to make a decision right away. And in many cases, that's the way family businesses became successful because that decision was made now.
Yes.
We didn't have a chance. And you talk about risk and risks averse. Certainly the second and third generations tend to be a little more conservative because they don't want to kill the golden goose.
Right.
But kudos to those that continue that aggressive posture appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I imagine a lot of that comes out of Generations.
Yeah. And I think another benefit to having multiple generations in the room at that event is that, like anything, you put a few people in one place looking at one thing, everyone's going to take something different away from it, right? They're all going to hear something or something's going to stick. And so you've got more smart minds seeing the same thing, taking it away, and then kind of discovering how that's going to work best in their family business.
Yeah.
And so it's a great way to involve even some of the younger folks. They may be in college or high school, and they're just sort of understanding the business, starting to think more like business people. And they're going to have things that they take away that, you know, the senior members of the family may not. But they still get to be a part of it in that discussion later.
Yeah, how fun to have all those people in a room together.
It's
And
very
to see the people, and oh, I know so-and-so, and I know, oh, wow, he's here too, and because he never comes out, and she isn't ever, you never see her.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat.
Mhm.
All sorts of businesses are involved, all sorts of family dynamics, all sorts of family history, multi-generational companies like Tykert and Pacific Coast Building to more contemporary companies like Subsea Systems.
Mhm.
Who are some of maybe the up-and-coming, the newer, younger generation family businesses that you might see in the organization?
There are all kinds.
So one that comes to mind is Z Specialty Foods.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're great.
You're
Yes,
familiar with
we
them?
are, because they actually did a podcast episode for A Seat at the Table.
Yes. So their product is honey and
Yep.
mead, and they are bee experts and bee advocates, and they're in Woodland, and they've created this really phenomenal space, and we've been able to host events there, and we've never had a business like that before.
No, and I can attest in the studio for your podcast, we've never had one like that. And the story is incredible. I'm going to leave it there because I want somebody to go to listen to it at a
Totally.
seat at the table. But it's an amazing story of how the family came together when it looked dismal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this case, the matriarch,
Mm-hmm.
on board, who shared the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting.
Phenomenal story.
Most of us are students of business, and so this is a lot of geeking out over,
Yes.
oh, wow, you do it this way? Show me how you do that. Like you spoke about Subsea Systems.
Yeah.
That is such a cool business, and they opened up their business to our membership to do a tour, and people brought their swimming suits to just really experience it,
Yeah.
and that's so special.
Yeah,
Z Specialty
Z Specialties,
Foods.
thank you. Yeah, come explore the honey.
Oh, yeah.
They invited
They're so
everybody on the
generous.
podcast. Come out and see what it's all about. I had no idea honey was like, olive oil or wine tasting.
Sure.
They have all these different variations of honey depending on where it originated from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the exposure I think that people get through an organization like yours. You wouldn't normally do that. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't normally interface with somebody
No.
that's so disparate from where your core competencies are for your business. But there's probably some operational piece that they do that would easily transfer into something else,
Yeah.
or vice versa, Subsea Systems and or
Yeah.
even a Tykert or Pacific Coast, where you have somebody of that significance that they've been around a while.
Mm-hmm.
They could learn something or they could share, either way.
Especially in the family dynamic area, because a business like mine, it's hard to think, how am I going to relate to someone like Pacific Coast Building Products, a billion-dollar organization?
Right.
But even though they are so sophisticated and successful, they will still have family dynamic issues like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to get support from a variety of businesses and friends.
Like any good business, family or not, they need support. And ours comes from the following companies.
I'm James Beckwith, President and CEO of Five Star Bank. We're dedicated to supporting nonprofit organizations who advocate for the strength, resilience, and vitality of those they serve. When nonprofit organizations thrive, our community does too. By supporting the Nonprofit Podcast Network, Five Star Bank is amplifying the voices and meaningful impact of our nonprofit community. We're Five Star Bank, a trusted nonprofit partner. How can we help you?
We are really excited to be part of the family and contribute to the work that you all are doing. CORE provides fractional and interim executive services, along with comprehensive back office solutions that go into our client sites and do the work to give them the capacity they need in order to move through transitions, whether that's planned or unplanned. Or companies also work with our accounting and finance, back office solutions, human resources, technology, and administration. The reason why our back office solutions add value is because we save them time and money, anywhere from 20 to 30% of what they would spend on that back office solution. We work in it so they can actually work on it. CXORE.com and contact me directly at DTEAT@CXORE.com.
If you're interested in learning more about how CORE may help your organization, visit CXORE.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. Tell me about collaborative efforts that you've got with the organization. Who do you collaborate with? Who are some of the other people that you might reach out to, or who would be of value in the actual contribution to family businesses?
So we're always looking for interesting topics that are relevant to the families that are members of our organization. And so often we're looking for people that have best practices around governance, have best practices around conflict management, around tax planning and strategy. There's a million legal issues and HR issues, especially when you get family members that are employees that are especially non-owner family members. There's some uniqueness there. And, so we're always looking, in addition to our technical advisor members who cut across financial services, insurance, wealth management, all kinds of stuff. There's all these other organizations as well that we'll be pulling in occasionally to try to learn best practices. How are things changing? If there's laws that are changing, it's important to know that. We work closely with the Family Business Association, which we're distinct and separate from. They do primarily not litigation,
Lobbying?
lobbying.
Yes.
Advocacy.
It's like
Yeah.
the other L word.
Yes.
So yeah, they're focused on the political aspect of things. We try to stay, arm's length from politics. We do have members that overlap, but to the extent somebody's interested in that world, they can, get connected with the FBA.
And they're a nonprofit as well. That obviously makes sense.
Mhm.
And it makes sense to be separate as well.
Mhm.
You can see where that would get cloudy in your space versus what they do, because they're more on the political side of things, where you're more on the operational and functional side of things for the families and the day-to-day reality of a family business, where that's looking out quite a ways in some cases.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think some businesses want to stay apolitical as
Mhm.
much as they can. They don't want to get kind of caught up in that world. And so I think if we were to trend towards something more political, we might alienate some members that really just want to have best practices on business execution, multi-generational transitions, and all the other issues that come with being a family business, leaving the politics out of it and leaving that to the individuals or other family businesses that have a passion for that.
Yeah, that makes
kind of
sense.
world.
Chambers of Commerce, would they have?
Mhm.
Okay, so another group of nonprofits, of which we have many, because you have family businesses all around.
Yeah.
The region. Is there a geographic designation that you service?
To some degree, I mean, you can sort of think about it from Chico down to Stockton and, Northern California,
Okay.
effectively. Probably East Bay coming this way. We have some members in Southern California. We have some people that travel in from across the country for generations. So we have some reach. I think longer term, there's opportunity to expand further, but for right now, we're primarily a Northern California
I'm
footprint.
going to give you an opportunity to share a little bit in just a minute, too.
Yeah.
Are there any family business nonprofits involved?
Not that I'm
Just off
aware
the
I
of.
top of my
don't think
head.
we have any current members, but
Okay.
I have come across nonprofits that were ran by families.
Yes, I'm familiar with a few. That's why I was wondering. I wonder, just out of curiosity, since we're a
We'd love
nonprofit
an
program.
introduction to them to invite
Sure.
them to be members.
Well, and I think they could benefit from what,
Yes.
because people perceive nonprofits as something different.
Mm-hmm.
They're a business. And if they aren't run like a business, they don't succeed.
Yeah.
So they have all the same issues, they have
Mhm.
all the same problems, and then they have an exacerbated element because of that 501c3 status,
Right.
which requires a lot more documentation,
Yes.
and paperwork, unlike a regular business that doesn't have to, go through all that qualification.
Mhm.
How about funding? How is the organization funded?
Yeah, member dues.
Okay.
Yeah, almost exclusively. So we have our family and business members, we have our technical advisor members, and then we offer sponsorships for events. Generations doesn't we shoot for that to break even because
Mhm.
we want it to be as accessible as possible. So we don't want to overcharge for tickets or overcharge for sponsorships. Our goal there is to try to produce the best event we can. And then through the year, as we collect our dues, that sets our budget. With that budget, we then go and execute and create the best program we can.
So obviously, the more businesses that you have, the more you can provide.
Yes.
The more you can give
Exactly right.
back.
Yeah.
And you're actually run a little bit uniquely too. The board is the operation, or the board is the leadership part of it, but the operational part, you don't have an employee per se. You use an organization to manage everything, which is
Right.
in some cases a really good way to go because you don't have that liability of overhead.
Mhm.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a little more cost efficient because an association management firm has all the structure, and so they can provide all the same services at a high quality. They see other organizations and how they're operated, how they host events, and just the most efficient ways to do things. They can bring all those great ideas back to ours at a lower price. And
Mhm.
so, from our perspective, we get kind of top tier leadership and administrative execution, but without the price tag that comes with having a dedicated employee.
And the
So it
state of
works-
California
works
just
quite
loves
well.
employees. And they keep finding ways to make you pay more for them, right?
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, Justin, this is going to be your organization, or when is the transition?
Oh, it's happened.
It's happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are currently the president.
Yes, sir.
If somebody said, you've got all these family businesses, they said, hey, look, Justin, we've got a blank check for you.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to really take this thing and blow it up.
Yep.
What would you do with it? What would it look like if you didn't have the limitations of
Mhm.
budget restrictions?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I would probably lead with great programming. So I'd try to find the world's best speakers on certain topics, the most engaging speakers, some that have done, their leading research, kind of at the bleeding edge of what's really working best for family businesses and helping companies move from generation to generation in the most seamless way possible. And I'd find them and bring them back and start there. And I think leading with that, we would end up with really high engagement, really high attendance. That would generate growth, which would then generate more revenue. Ultimately, like when I think about this from a pure business perspective, we care about membership growth and churn rate, right?
Mhm.
We want new members in the door. We don't want existing members to leave.
Right.
That's it. And that's what the business is. Those are lagging indicators of success, and so they have nothing to do with what we do on a day-to-day basis. They're the outcomes that tell us whether or not we're doing the right things in the first place.
Mhm.
And so when I think about what creates new members and what creates stickiness in the organization, it's giving people a place to network and meet each other, find like-minded people, have a resource where they've got a problem, they want to solve it, they know who they can reach out to, people they trust, and confidentiality is key. These are often very sensitive issues. These are families that are well known to the public. They often don't want that dirty laundry aired to the world. And so it can sometimes be hard to ask for help. But if you have another family business that understands those sensitivities, you know that it's going to be, highly confidential and you'll get good advice. So trying to drive that as much as we can.
And I can see we're just the quality of all that improving
Mhm.
to a very, very high level, as opposed to a great level
Mhm.
locally
or a really good level regionally, you take that to the next level because the resources are there to do so. That just draws a lot more attention.
Yeah.
And engagement from not only the existing membership, but that buzz of what that is creates more interest, creates more membership. And obviously, if you continue to do so and you provide what the interest of the group is, you succeed, the churn rate diminishes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is the type of organization you can grow regionally and then statewide and then kind of move across regions like the West Coast and moving east in our perspective. I think there's a lot of family business organizations that are out there, all of which are trying to solve the same problems. A lot of that could be streamlined. And I think you'd want a model where locally they have a lot of autonomy because you still want your local service providers, your best, tax professionals, attorneys, bankers, all those people locally serving those communities. You want them involved and you want them to be engaged in what's going on. But to provide but here's the best programming. Here's speakers that we can bring in and they can do a circuit and we can pay them to do a circuit through these different regions. Members have more of a database to draw on. So the problem they may have may not happen in Northern California, but once every 100 years, but it happens somewhere else in the country and they can draw on that experience from other regions. So
you just said something. I think that's really a great observation. There's something that may not happen here, may not have happened, but could happen.
Yeah.
And it's happened somewhere else. And that's a value right there to say, hey, preventative steps we can take because we've seen it happen over here. Or somebody shared it that we might not have seen if it was just somebody that's locally or regionally oriented in terms of the conversation.
Yeah.
So there's a reason for somebody to give you a blank check and say, let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
We will take it.
Yeah,
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah. If they need help with the spelling, let me know. I can
That's
write
right.
it out for them.
How about coming back to reality, the greatest need? What is the greatest need of the organization today?
That's a good question. I mean, I think from my perspective, it's always engagement, right? I want people to be highly engaged, showing up and want to be there and feel like if they're not there, they're missing something. And so I think we have great engagement. I think there can always be more engagement. I think it's hard to have a membership that's too engaged. And so for me, that's something that if they're engaged, then everything else is going to go right. And so on my side, when I'm thinking about it or when our programs committees are thinking about it, it's how do we drive engagement? How do we measure engagement? How do we know what to provide next? Because to some degree, we all, we're making decisions in our own spaces. And so unless we have family members telling us what they need, we're just going to keep providing whatever ideas we come up with. In my dream perfect world, they're reaching out to us, using us as like a second brain and saying, hey, I need to know about this. I don't need to know about it today, but I need to know about it in the next 3 or 4 months. Go track down some information, find a great speaker, find some resources, and then bring them back, and let's create a program around it. And then I can provide that to them. If they have that question, I know other members have the same question. And I think that to me would drive phenomenal programming, phenomenal engagement. But it's just always hard to get people's feedback. Everyone's out executing on their own business and doing all their own things. And so you're kind of asking them to do a little bit of extra homework to think ahead. But like I said, my dream is for them to think of us as an external brain they can kind of outsource something to, and we can go track down the best information and bring it back.
Well, and I'm glad to hear you say, those are some of the greater needs. Because so many organizations, as you can imagine, were nonprofit oriented. They come through, their grants have been cut, the funding has changed, the dynamic of fundraising is different today than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Sure.
And their struggle is revenue to stay afloat.
Yep.
We just need money. You're member funded. You can scale.
Yes.
You can adjust, and if membership were to shrink a little bit, you make the adjustment. If it grows, it gives you the opportunity. You're not reliant on something that's distant or government funded or whatever the case may be through foundations and grants, which is really a good way to go.
Yeah.
Because it's up to you.
Yeah.
The success of the business will be up to you because of what you do and how you serve your constituents.
Yeah.
Just that easy.
Yeah. We have much lower volatility than organizations that have to purely go out and fundraise from $0 every year and try to exceed that same budget every year, starting, fresh again every year. We have a lot of multi-year memberships. We do have natural churn. I mean, there are family businesses
Sure.
that sell. There's family businesses that are struggling, and this isn't top priority. They move out of the state. There's a lot of reasons
Right.
that members may leave. So we're always we have to be growth focused, or we'll lose members over time.
Right.
But it's great to not have to think about pure fundraising all the time, because that can dominate an organization's time very quickly.
So Maggie, I'm going to look at you for this question.
Yes.
Because you've got such a breadth of experience with the organization, are there any family stories, like one that you could share that you could say, yeah, I've got a great one that came out of relationship with the Family Business Center?
Absolutely, and I know it very well because it's my story.
I love it.
Our family, like I said, was one of the founding families, and so I started with the organization when I was 23 years old. So I'm 20 years older now.
Yes.
And I'd been in business for about a year, and I didn't really see a clear path forward, whether it was in the family business or outside of it. I didn't really know what I was going to be doing because I was 23. And what I was struggling with the most was how isolating it felt being the DOB. My dad always calls himself an SOB. Well, son of a boss. I'm daughter of a boss. And so when you're the child of the CEO, there's different dynamics at work. People treat you differently. They weigh your words differently, and you learn pretty quickly that you can't fully let your guard down with coworkers in the same way. And it made it hard to build genuine relationships, and even harder to imagine, like, long term, what is this going to look like for me? And so when I started attending Family Business Center meetups, it all changed. I met peers who were in similar situations and others who were further along in their journeys. One conversation that really stands out to me was with Susie Walker, who is, I believe, second generation, her family's business, and Larry Walker Engineering. Is that right? Environmental engineering. And she shared that she had chosen not to have children so she could fully pursue her career. And I had never even considered that as an option. But talking with her helped me realize that there wasn't just one right path. And there were many ways to build a fulfilling life and still serve the business thoughtfully and selflessly. Through the center, my family explored succession options, clarified what mattered most to us, and learned from incredibly impressive multi-generational businesses. But the biggest impact for me was not the programming and experts, which is phenomenal, but it was the peer connections. Two of my absolute best friends I met in the leadership program that we put on 15 years ago. No one has the same story, but having people who understand the complexity and loneliness of family business leadership really made all the difference. It made me feel, more like I belonged in a community. So ultimately, we figured out what our succession plan was because of the Family Business Center. And like you said, my dad was the first person to share on our podcast. And I'm very, very grateful for everything that I've been able to get from this organization.
That's a great story, because you would not have had that relationship and comfort with somebody if they weren't a part of the organization. You're not going to talk to somebody on the street or just another business acquaintance that somebody introduced you to. It just wouldn't happen. But that implied trust, because you're a part of the organization, there's some psychological safety there to be able to address it. I think that's wonderful. That's a great story.
Thank you.
That is a very great story.
I will say something I noticed. I'm not coming from a family business. I'm coming from a service provider kind of background. And so we'll go to board meetings. We have a phenomenal board, many of whom are family business members. And I forget sometimes when I show up to board meetings that they're all friends. They all know each other extremely well. They talk between our meetings. They go to each other's family events. It's amazing how close they've become. And so we'll be talking, and it's like, I haven't seen these people in a month, and they're having a conversation about what they did last weekend. And I think that's so cool that they've got this group of people that are not only somebody they can rely on for business advice, but they're just friends.
Yeah.
And it's people with a similar background that that all can enjoy each other, even though they're all different businesses, and we're all in the same community. I think family businesses really are root of our community, and it's cool to see them all kind of hanging out, working together.
The thing that amazes me about the organization, having not been aware of it back in the day, but because of the association with the podcast, is the family businesses that are in Sacramento. How many businesses you may not know are family businesses until they come through. And there's the obvious ones because the name is on the door, but so many others that it isn't.
Yeah.
And when you realize, oh my gosh, this is a second, a third, in some cases, fourth generation business, who knew? And you talk to people in the community, they don't know.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with somebody on the outside. Say, man, we just had a great episode with blah, blah, blah in the studio. And they're like, what's that got to do with the family business? It's a family business.
Yeah.
But you just don't know it.
Yeah.
And that's I think the surprise for a lot of people when they do hear it. But what a benefit, because on the surface, you wouldn't know it is, but they still have all the same issues that family businesses have.
Sure.
And to the general population, no big deal. To the business community, maybe even not a big deal until they engage and realize there's something there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's something in the culture of a family business it's different from a pure for-profit organization. I mean, not that family businesses don't want profit, they do, but they take a little bit different approach. There's just enough family orientation to how they do things, the way they treat their employees, the way they attack strategy and growth. Doesn't mean they don't take risk, but they've got this long-term perspective, and so some of that can be scaled back a little bit because they're not willing to bet the entire success of the organization on one big idea.
Right.
Which I think provides a lot of economic stability. When you look at the number of employees that are employed by a family business, it's the vast majority of employees in Northern California. I think maybe family businesses, government, healthcare, somewhere in there. It's like those are the three that kind of employ most people.
And I've got some stats on that.
Oh, great! I wish I used to be able to rattle them off. It's been a while.
In the close, I did a little homework on it myself because I was really curious. Because we hear it. Sometimes it seems that family businesses are taken for granted, and or small businesses are taken for granted. Yet that is the backbone of the country in so many ways. Before I get there, what's the best way to learn more about the organization?
Yeah, probably the website, I would say. You just go to your favorite search engine, type in Capital Region Family Business Center.
Yeah.
That's the best way to find us. Our URL may be changing this year, so that's something that's kind of out on the strategic plan. Right now it's capfamilybus, .org. One of the things that came out of our strategic planning this year as a board was we need to clean that up and make it easy to find.
Yeah. Well, I applaud you for the way that you treat the podcast as well. And this is just a little bit self-serving because a lot of times when an organization has a podcast, you don't know it exists.
Right.
It's maybe buried in a header somewhere on your homepage. It's front and center.
Oh, we're very proud of it.
As you should be, because it's extremely well done. Your host is a family business non-participant who chose to leave the family business, and that's Natalie Kling from Mariani Packing. Does a wonderful job. She just does a fabulous job with the guests. But that's unique. I mean, it's very unique that you find somebody in the organization who has the capability to be the host and then do a wonderful job of it, and you exercise that program extremely well, and you get far more play with it than you have membership, which means it's going beyond just the membership on every single episode. Some episodes are over 1,000 downloads, which means that's 1,000 individuals have chosen to listen to something that came out of that program. And you should be proud of it because it's a really, really good program.
Yeah. And I mean, Natalie's, if I didn't know that she wasn't a professional podcast producer,
you wouldn't know,
or host, I would think that she was.
Right.
And I think it's a unique skill set to be able to draw those stories out of families and get to the root of some of that emotion that's in there and get people to open up and talk about some of the challenges they've had. Because that's where the meaningful connection is. That's where what we want other family businesses to take away. It's all rooted in that, like, what is it like to be that person? And it's all rooted somewhere in the emotion of it. And that's sometimes easy to mask with business. And
you said two wonderful things there, Justin: meaningful way and emotion. And that is so much about family business. That is what family businesses are. Yeah. And it's why you exist. So
well said.
Congratulations on what you do with that.
Thank you.
nearly 50% of the country is made up of small business, and the best sources we could find through the research were about a quarter, 27% of those are family businesses. That's a huge number. In Sacramento, the number's estimated to be closer to 50% of the workforce is employed by family business, which is a lot of the employee database in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And you're servicing that through the organization and the family businesses that participate. So there's a real good reason to be a member of the organization right there, just to associate and participate with the same people who experience all the same things that we just spoke about. So for both of you, for what you do with the Family Business Center, Maggie, thank you for your last 4 years of service as leadership. Justin, welcome to the presidency. I look forward to your tenure and what we do and how things grow in the course of the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. We hope today's episode inspired you and gave you a deeper look into the work of our local nonprofits. If you believe in our mission to amplify their voices, please take a moment to leave us a positive review and share this episode with a friend. It helps more people discover the incredible work happening in our community. And don't miss future episodes. Subscribe to our weekly updates and monthly newsletter at nonprofpod.com. And if you're part of a nonprofit that would like to be featured, we'd love to hear from you. Just visit the Guests tab on our website. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is recorded and produced at Hear Me Now Studio with generous support from our outstanding partners. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, online at captrust.com. Western Health Advantage, local care with community impact. Find the plan that fits at westernhealth.com. CORE, executive leadership and comprehensive support services. Visit cxore.com. And 5 Star Bank, a local trusted advisor to community nonprofits for over 25 years. 5starbank.com.